So his body was recovered after all.
Yes, and his cells have remained frozen in a cryo chamber. His genomic information is a priceless treasure to mankind.
A lot of people have often wondered whose grave is Solid Snake truly paying his respects to. At the start of the MGS4 menu shows us the ending of the game. Old Snake stands among the graves of Arlington National Cemetery, smoking what appears to be his final cigarette before loading a pistol. Then, during the prologue, at the start of the game, we see him salute a tombstone. Most people accept that this is the grave of his father, Big Boss, yet for years, another interpretation has survived that Snake is actually visiting Frank Yeager, better known as Grey Fox. It has long been speculated that this is the grave of Frank Yeager, someone who Solid considered his best friend.
How could you come back to all this? Why keep fighting?
There's something my best friend said to me once.
What?
We're not tools of the government or anyone else.
It seems more than reasonable that Solid Snake would remember someone he held a great deal of respect for. Paying tribute to him would feel entirely natural. Honouring Big Boss, though, seems much more complicated. As you know, Big Boss turned his back on many of the principles he once claimed to believe in. He despised governments for using soldiers as disposable pawns, yet eventually built his own dream around endless warfare, a world that would keep soldiers fighting simply so they could always have a purpose. In trying to escape the system, he recreated its cruelty. He used people, manipulated conflicts, and treated lives as pieces in his private war against Zero. The man who wanted freedom for soldiers became the very kind of figure he once hated. So why would Solid Snake salute him? Perhaps beneath all that hostility, Snake still carried some unresolved connection to his father. A need to understand what Big Boss had become and why. The unresolved questions he wanted to know. By the time of Shadow Moses and the tanker incident, Snake had witnessed the corruption of his own government. Like Big Boss before him, he discovered that he had spent much of his life being directed by the people who never told him the complete truth. Snake still rejected Big Boss's methods. His refusal to use CQC for so many years was itself a rejection of his father's shadow. But understanding someone is not the same as forgiving them. Perhaps Snake had begun to recognize the experiences that drove Big Boss down this path.
You had those skills all this time and never used them? Why?
The man who taught me was my former commander in Foxhound.
Big Boss?
Never felt right using a technique learned from a man who betrayed his unit.
The tombstone itself appears to answer the mystery. The inscription itself reads, "A hero forever loyal to the flames of war. Rests in outer heaven between 1930X to 1999. Those dates are important. Big Boss was born in 1935. Frank Yeager was born decades later, during the 1950s, although Grey Fox was left near death at Zanzibar land in 1999. The birth date simply does not belong to him. The inscription points directly towards Big Boss. While 1999 marks the Zanzibar land disturbance, the moment Solid Snake defeated the real Big Boss, whose ruined body was secretly recovered by the Patriots and placed into an induced coma, that would appear to put the Grey Fox theory to rest, I'd say. But Metal Gear Solid 5 created a much stranger question in this equation. The question is no longer whose grave this officially is. The question is whose body, if anyone, could actually be buried beneath it. Metal Gear Solid 5 established that there were two men carrying the identity of Big Boss. John, the original, and the former MSF medic transformed into his phantom, Venom Snake. Venom's passport places his birth in 1932, meaning he also fits the mysterious 1930X engraved on the stone. He inherited Big Boss's face, memories, and reputation until the achievements of both men became inseparable from the same legend. However, Venom died at Outer Heaven in 95, 4 years before the same date on the grave. On the surface, that seems to rule him out, but a gravestone records the story the world is meant to remember. It does not necessarily identify the body placed beneath it, if there's even a body at all. The simplest answer is that the grave is empty, a memorial created after Big Boss's supposed death at Zanzibar land, while his real body remained imprisoned by the Patriots. But there is another possibility. After Solid Snake defeated Venom on the 100 basement floor of Outer Heaven, NATO launched a massive bombing campaign against the fortress. There were a few survivors. Grey Fox had already been rescued by Snake, while Kyle Schneider and several others were later saved from the ruins by the real Big Boss. Venom, however, died inside the fortress while carrying Big Boss's identity. If his body survived the destruction, Cypher, or the organisation that later became the Patriots, would have every reason to recover it. They knew that he was the body double because Zero had helped create him. A DNA test would not expose anything they did not already know.
Yes. I've prepared a ruse of sorts, one I imagine you'll quite like.
What is it?
You could say I've made another snake.
Venom's corpse could have been preserved after 95, and later placed beneath the memorial following Big Boss's apparent death in 1999. To the outside world, the legendary Big Boss had already died once at Outer Heaven, when he resurfaced at Zanzibar land 4 years later. The illusion needed to be a permanent ending. Surely the same legendary soldier could not return from the dead twice. Venom's body could provide that ending. Even the inscription takes another meaning when viewed through the lens of Venom Snake. A hero forever loyal to the flames of war rests in Outer Heaven. John survived Outer Heaven. Venom did not. Venom was the man that remained loyal until his final moment, dying inside the nation he had protected while still wearing another man's face. If his body rests beneath that stone, then the grave would be both a final honour and one final exploitation. Even in death, the Phantom would still continue protecting Big Boss as he once did before. The Patriots could declare the legend dead while keeping the real man imprisoned elsewhere. As Big Mama explains in MGS 4, Zero did not allow Big Boss to live or die. He transformed him into an icon, something preserved beyond ordinary human life.
Zero transformed Big Boss into an icon, neither living nor dead.
Sounds almost like a religion.
Above ground, a tombstone declared Big Boss dead. Elsewhere, his living body became a biological monument. The date 1999 may therefore represent something more than John's supposed death. It marks the death of the title itself. The legendary Big Boss was officially gone, even while the man born as John remained alive. None of this confirms that Venom is physically inside the grave. Kojima clearly did not write MGS4 in 2008 with the later twist of the Phantom Pain already established. This is later information being applied backwards to an older mystery. Outer Heaven was never just one fortress either. It was the name Big Boss gave to the idea of a home outside of nation control, a place where soldiers would always be wanted and needed, despite a nation. Liquid appears to be the perfect example of this, that no matter where you call home, one can still apply Outer Heaven to the title.
From today, call this place Outer Heaven.
Big Boss's dream.
So rest in Outer Heaven may be symbolic rather than a literal description of where the body died. Still, knowing what we know now, I like to see the tombstone as more than a memorial to one man, that it represents every soldier consumed by the legend of Big Boss, John, Venom, and even Frank Yeager himself. Its dates stretch across the life of that legend, and the long struggle between Big Boss, his most loyal followers, and the Patriots. Perhaps Snake's salute was never simply just for his father, perhaps he was honouring everyone who fought, suffered, and lost themselves beneath the name of Outer Heaven. Not the endless warfare Big Boss created, but the human struggle buried beneath it, and the people used as instruments in the war against Zero's control. The stone may bear the dates of Big Boss, the body beneath it could be Venom, but I believe the memory Snake salutes belongs to them all, including himself. What do you guys think? Is the grave an empty memorial to Big Boss who's just resting alongside the boss herself, the final resting place of Venom Snake, or does it symbolically belong to every soldier who followed the dream of Outer Heaven, finally laid to rest? Let me know down below, and if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, Like and share it, hype the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Until we meet again.